Yeah, let's get it! Born from the spark under red, white, and blue lights, forge my own path, climbing these brand new heights. This ain't a debate, we setting the new standard, the voice of the free, a vision that's expanded. Drew Grimaldi Podcast.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to the Drew Grimaldi Podcast. We had some technical difficulties there, but I think we got them all worked out. We have a very special guest today. We have Rabbi Rothschild. How you doing there, sir?
I'm lovely, thank God. How are you today, Drew?
Oh, yeah, doing fantastic, We got, just a little technical difficulty there. Tried to do with some new software updates on everything that I've been doing, so I apologize. A little delay there, but we got it going. So, you have some projects that you're working on that you'd like to tell my audience about.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Rabbi Rothschild. I stream my life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for world peace. I've been doing so for more than 4 years. My streams go back to the pandemic. We've seen the death of a queen, the birth of AI, the coronation of a king, and everything in between. This is a real-life Truman Show, a real-life Big Brother. This is a timeline and a time capsule of human achievement. In the 1990s, the phrase content is king was coined, and I'm making it true today. I'm, in my own way, king of the internet. This is the biggest event in global history, and here's why. In 2017, The Economist magazine stated that data had overtaken petroleum as Earth's #1 resource, and I have more data archived on the internet than any person ever, which is making me a very influential individual. I'm going viral, and when I do, Drew, I want to make you, your audience, their friends and family, all financially independent if they're not already. I want to ensure that they have generational wealth if they don't already.
Well, we're all looking for wealth. Absolutely. Everybody's looking for some extra cash, right?
Absolutely. And what I'm saying is that I'll be able to monetize this giant amount of data that I've created and additionally do certainly endorsements for different organizations. And I'd like to give you all the opportunity to be able to start charities and philanthropic organizations of your own to improve the world. How do those things sound?
I mean, they all sound fantastic.
Absolutely.
So you're a rabbi, right?
I am, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm an Orthodox rabbi, yeah.
Isn't it Shabbos?
It is Shabbos, but I'm not working. I don't drive on Shabbat. I don't work on Shabbat. I don't combust on Shabbat. I don't launder on Shabbat. There are 39 melachot. There are 39 melachot, and I do my best to not break any of them, but there's nothing about being on the internet in the Bible.
There's truth to that. There's truth to that. So you have been on air for 24/7 for 4 years. What is the biggest?
More than 4 years.
Yeah. So what's the biggest hiccup that you've had? Like, what about fucking showering or something like that? Or do you do that?
I do that, yeah. So the technical aspect is the biggest one. I have to deal with terms and conditions of different platforms in major ways, in terms of certainly not showing nudity. So if I am going to the shower or in the bath or going to the bathroom, I basically have to wear some kind of swimming trunks or show from the waist up. In terms of perhaps some of the other things that one does in the bathroom, those are also against the terms and conditions. But everything from brushing my teeth to traveling to sleeping has all been on camera 24/7 for the last more than 4 years. I'll approach 5 years this fall. And I'm someone who feels that this data will be of extreme value to humanity in the future for instances of being able to study aging, to be able to study the different behavior patterns that people have, different sleep habits that people have, circadian rhythms that people have. And really, in a generation or two ago, I might have been someone who was writing a journal or a journalist or someone who wrote a diary as a diarist. But in my own way, I'm using the camera as a medium for being able to record my life.
So how do you monetize that since you've been on for 24/7 for like all these years? Do people actually watch that shit?
They do. They actually live in my Discord with me. So they like to know that they're not alone in the world. I have people who live 24/7 alongside me. I have people who just want to sleep with me. I have people who want to spend their waking hours with me. I do my best to provide
to sleep with
pastoral
you.
care.
Is that like the virtual thing?
Yeah, they like to know that somebody else is in the world who is asleep alongside them. I guess people don't like to feel alone. And so we play games together, we watch movies together, we watch sports together. Really, every aspect of human existence can be lived alongside me from Discord if you want to connect with me, or just on YouTube if you don't want to necessarily connect with me and you just want to observe my life 24/7. But in answer to your question, the biggest issue that I experience are the technical aspects. Internet outages occasionally. If that happens, I do my best to use GoPros. Certainly, you run into the terms and conditions of different platforms, and but from aside from those two aspects, it's really just living my life the way that I normally would live it. Aside from perhaps some of the social aspects that I have, you had mentioned that it's Shabbos. Technically, we don't know the exact day of Shabbos. If you want to get really specific, we don't know what the seventh day was when God rested. I've written on this subject for anyone who's interested. I invite them to go to my blog. It's rabbirothschild.medium.com, and I write in depth in the different ways that I feel that the use of electronics in the modern age perhaps could be interpreted with, perhaps even in the future, with the electric car or electronics. Prior to live streaming my life, though, I certainly avoided any use of electronics on Shabbat. I was someone who was your black hat, Orthodox Jew going to shul 3 times a day. And it was really during the pandemic when my job changed from being I'm a certified project management professional in addition to a rabbi. And a lot of things within our religion changed as well. The Sephardic the Sephardic wing of Judaism started some of their live streaming some of their events, and even within my Ashkenazi shul synagogue, we started live streaming some of our services. And so I got more and more comfortable being on camera, as opposed to being someone who was never on camera, now being on camera for my job anywhere between 8 and 10 hours, and then for different religious activities, anywhere between 2 and 3 hours a day for classes or services or whatever it may have been. And I was able to, fortunately, be able to make enough money to be financially stable during this project, and be able to basically live my life for the last more than 4 years independently. And I look forward to the future where I can do just what you had said, monetize all of this data, and certainly from the different platforms and advertising, but also being a spokesperson for different organizations. Ideally, I'd like to wear brands all over my clothing 24/7 and give people an opportunity to be sponsored in a way that no influencer has ever sponsored anything previously. I think it's important that people understand that I'll be able to be perhaps start my own cryptocurrency, perhaps monetize my social media in ways that people have never had before. I have so much content 24/7, 365 from more than 25 different angles over 4 years, is huge amounts of petabytes that.
So, like, why would you do this? Like, I get you think that this massive amounts of data out there on the internet is eventually going to be very, very useful, right? But
yeah,
what do you think about it's going to be useful? Like you mentioned, people, looking at aging and stuff like that. And I mean, people have photographs that can do that, right? So, like, what do you think the major difference is that between what you're doing and somebody just taking pictures and, advertising their life like people do on Facebook and stuff?
Certainly, it's about data points. With photographs, you just have single data points that basically connect to periods of time. With video, it's basically continuous data points. We can also study not just behavior, but micro behavior, micro actions, different facial movements, different sleeping movements. Just from a sleep study perspective, we don't have within the medical community someone who has so much years of their life to be able to study from a sleep aspect. Also, I think just from a historic standpoint, the ability to basically live someone's life alongside them 24 hours a day, like a real life Truman Show or a real life Big Brother, is going to be interesting from people that just wonder what life was like during the pandemic, what life was like when AI was launched, what life is like in 2026 and moving forward. And this is a project that I absolutely love doing. I'd like to continue to do so in the future. I don't just stream from one location. I've streamed as far north as Santa Barbara, as far south as San Diego, as far east as the desert and mountains, as far west as the Pacific Ocean. I've streamed in Beverly Hills, in Los Angeles, at Disneyland, basically everywhere in Southern California. And ideally, once I go viral, I'd like to stream my life globally. And I think it'll be an interesting aspect for people to be able to follow along with an influencer, with a creator, where their content doesn't end. Name any other creator out there, eventually you absorb all of their content or you digest all of their content, but not with mine. As of this moment, it would take you over 100 years to be able to download and digest all of the content that I've created over the last 4 years from more than 25 different angles.
So when you say content, right, they say you have quality and then you have quantity, right? Or you have quality and not quantity. Would you say that this is a lot of quantity, but not necessarily quality moments?
Well, I think that moment we're experiencing right now is quality. And I have many interviews that I've done that I think are quality moments. But additionally, the living my life alongside history will be interpreted in the future, I think, as a quality aspect. I have a radio going in the background 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you can literally use my streams as a timeline or a time capsule of what life was going on. So perhaps some mundane aspect, you hear something on the radio that says some type of new variant occurs, may eventually turn out into being a global pandemic, or perhaps some kind of event that happened on the other side of the world may eventually have to do with some kind of conflict that we're in. And I literally have all of that archived. Additionally, from the IRL content that I have, I sing karaoke, we play games, certainly watch sports, every sporting event from every World Cup to Super Bowl to World Series and Stanley Cup, and really you name it from a sporting aspect, I've done my best to be able to archive. So whatever it is, if you're into art, music, history, politics, religion, whatever it is, there's something for you on my streams.
So what, like you say, you do a lot of these things. So you have, I'm guessing your people that do follow this are in the same hobbies, maybe? Like, so what are some of the hobbies that you do or talk about? You said karaoke, stuff like that. But, what else would you say?
Comedy. So 24/7, I like to listen to comedy stand-up. Additionally, other podcasts. So anybody who likes the Joe Rogan Experience, I've listened to essentially every single one of those alongside what I'm doing. Moreover, sports, like tomorrow we've got the World Cup Championship, the final between Spain and Argentina, but that's nevertheless a historical event. So for some people who may not be into soccer, so to speak, it's still an event that's happening in the world, and there are billions.
And how often does it happen in the United States on America 250? Right.
That's exactly right. We got to celebrate that most recently with the 250th anniversary of our country, and I have all of that archived. Even some events that I didn't think were perhaps going to be that important. I remember in November of 2022, there was a website that I somehow discovered that was offering early adopters. It happened to be ChatGPT, and I was a user of ChatGPT when it launched November 30th, 2022. And we can see the way that large language models have changed our lives since then. And you can literally go back in reverse and see my life and see how I once would complain about how large language models weren't necessarily, at least at that time, that useful, and how they've completely transformed our lives over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. And they're going to continue to do so. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how AI is changing our lives. And I think from my perspective, AI needs human models or human examples on which to build its models. And I have more data for one single individual for it to build its models than any person ever. And I think we're just at the very precipice of what that could be perhaps in the future. So for me to be able to necessarily name everything that my stream does, I may not be able to do that, but I do
Gotcha.
know that just having the data points that we have is going to be important in the future. Like, for instance, nobody studies people's breathing habits over the course of years. We don't have that kind of data, but we do now. Or their blinking patterns over the course of years, or their voice tonations or inflections, or their sleeping habits, or how they dream. All of these are things that I've been able to archive over the course of my streams. And it's not just from one angle, it's from 25 different angles. I think people in the future will be able to live my life virtually should they wish. They'll be able to watch my life in 360 degrees. And I think that it may not be for everyone, but from a scientific perspective, it may have some importance. And frankly, there's some entertainment value in it as well.
There you go. I like that. Well, that's interesting. So you brought up AI, right? Talking about AI models. So
Yeah.
you're into the AI thing. Which is your favorite model? What do you use most?
Excellent question. So I am, I would say, somewhat geared toward ChatGPT because it's like your first girlfriend, so to speak, the first one that I ever used.
Well, they're very
Is
close with Israel now too, so that's good.
who isn't?
Right.
And so, aside from their diplomatic statuses with foreign countries, it's basically a large language model that I was using first. But I will say that it is my favorite for perhaps language models. It was my favorite for video generation. They had an app that could be used known as Sora. I don't know if you're familiar with what Sora was, but it was basically prompt to video. But they ceased that in April of this year, so they no longer have Sora. But you could make really great videos with it. So from a text to video standpoint, it was once my favorite. But in terms of photo or image creation, I like Gemini because it gives you more opportunities if it doesn't get right. And I have a lot of Google accounts.
I
So
have noticed
I can
Gemini does have a tendency to make images look very real. Where, I think Gemini makes them look really real. ChatGPT is really good at like making promotional stuff. There's a little bit of like extra thought that goes into that, I think. Like you say, hey, I need a creative thing. It'll make something completely creative, very cool. It doesn't, but there's still some limitations there, right? Like I like my Claude because it plugs into everything. I also like my Anti-Gravity 2.0 because I can take what Claude says and I can have anti-gravity deploy it, for example, right?
certainly, and I do that as well. I use multiple at once, especially when I'm writing. I will perhaps have an idea, put a draft together, utilize a large language model, and then I like to ask the large language model to ensure that my reasoning is sound on a 10 out of 10 scale. Once it says that it's sound 10 out of 10, I'll take that reasoning and put it into a different model. And the new model may say it's a 9.8, but here are some weaknesses. And then I'll make sure to tie up those weaknesses so that I can get an overall 10 out of 10 from multiple large language models. And then once that happens, I publish it. In terms of OpenAI's ChatGPT, I just wish you got more photo or image creation credits per account. I think you only get like 3 or 5 for the free one, and for Gemini you get like 30. So
they just changed their whole model to more usage based, where before it wasn't.
Right. And what I find is you can take a Gemini image, get it to exactly the way that you want with 30 different attempts, and then if you don't, you have another Gemini account or Google account, you can utilize another 30 and then just have ChatGPT remove the watermark, and it's as good as you would ever want it.
Right.
In terms of getting it right the first time, OpenAI has been quite good at it, and I can understand from a promotional standpoint it is good.
Why do you think Grok is so far behind?
Oh, it's a great question.
See, it's crazy because they were just talking up like Grok 4.5 or whatever. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And you got all these different tiers. And I think X doesn't do themselves any favors doing this, but they have all these fucking Premium Plus, Super Grok. And so
Super
it's like,
Grok,
I was
absolutely.
like, all right, so I'm going to give Super Grok a try, right? So like I started doing just some of its natural coding stuff, and I couldn't do a fraction of what I do with Claude or, any of these things. So
I'm absolutely in agreement with you.
it's way behind. And it's funny
Wait,
too, because, Elon was one of the starters of OpenAI, and he just
that's right.
got done with the lawsuit saying that he didn't like that the direction went. It went from open source to something that's a profit driving model. He didn't like that, and he lost that. So as these models become more, profit driven, I think you're going to see a lot of these things are very expensive, and they're going to have to figure out how to make it more, because that's one of the problems with Claude is that it's so freaking expensive.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Drew, especially on Grok. So one thing that I do like about Grok is the Grokopedia. I think that's a really neat feature. But aside from that, I feel like Elon Musk is not doing himself any favors by making it paywalled or many of its features paywalled. Only 1% of all X users pay for premium every month. And that means that he's not getting as much feedback to his system because much of the more advanced options are behind a paywall.
Correct.
He's a trillionaire.
Right.
He's the world's first publicly recognized trillionaire. He doesn't need the money. He could have Grok run at a loss, which it likely does, and as with X, for many years before he will ever have to worry about the finances of the organization. In my opinion, he is being penny wise and pound foolish, because in terms of the long-term opportunities that AI holds, he should open this up to everyone, give people as much opportunity to be able to give it feedback as possible, and be able to catch up to OpenAI's ChatGPT and to Claude and to Gemini and some of these other models that have basically left him in the dust. Grok had some really great features. I would say that they have rescinded, like at least for free users, so non-premium X accounts, such as text to video. That was really great, and he was advertising how wonderful this was. And you could put together a 3 to 5 second or maybe as many as 10-second video, but now that's behind Super Grok. And just like what you said, there are different paywall, and there are different tiers to this. And what does this mean? This means that his models don't get as much feedback as this isn't what I wanted, or this is helpful, or this is not helpful. And in the long-term aspects of AI, that's very important to be able to get, especially as we are in the early days of AI and AI models and the different generations. And so if I were running the company, which I'm not, I would make this available to everyone as much as possible, very similar way to ChatGPT, get as much data as we could so that we are a power player and not paywall myself, because again, he may be cutting off his nose to spite his face in the long run.
Right. Well, if you want to check something out, I have my own AI. It's ai.grimaldi.tv. It is called Sam. It's a sports analysis machine, and you put two matches in there, 2 players, 2 teams, and it'll run what's called a Monte Carlo loop simulation. So it simulates it 10,000 times, 15, 20,000 times. And it'll give you probabilities on what team would win and give you different scenarios of what would happen, right? And so I have that running off of Gemini, right? Off of the Gemini skins. And I was thinking about moving over to Grok, and it was just so limited that I couldn't use it. And even it fucked up the code so bad that I was like, I'm just done using this. But my point is, people use AI to, try to cure cancer, for health, all these great things. I use AI to try to win a bet, trying to win a parlay, baby. You know what I'm saying? But that's absolutely me.
I completely understand, and everybody has a use for it, and that sounds very interesting. So, again, that's ai.grimaldi.tv, correct?
You got it.
Excellent. So for any of my viewers in the future, we're going to use that, and if we ever have a bet that doesn't come through, you can send all of your feedback to our friend Drew here.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. But yeah, AI has many different uses, and it can't necessarily predict the future, but it is a very important tool. And that's really what I think it is a tool. I get a lot of people who ask me, Rabbi, do you think AI is a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And it's really neutral. It's how do you want to use it?
Right.
It's like fire. Fire can be used to cook, which is a good thing, or it could be used to burn, which is a bad thing. It could be used, the wheel could be used to squash someone, a bad thing, or to travel, a good thing. Same with electricity, same with steam, same with the computer. It's just a tool.
Right.
And it's who controls it is a really big aspect of this. That's definitely an issue. And I recognize that I am someone who is just I can only control that which I have in my own life. And I recognize that perhaps being able to record and document the world in which we are, especially the AI revolution, may be important. People might think in the future this is a really neat project. And if they don't, I wouldn't necessarily be living my life all that much differently, at least not from some of the interactions that I have. Certainly, I might travel more, but aside from that, it's basically when you're relaxing at home, there are a lot of people who just watch TV or watch a movie or watch sports or talk with a friend or whatever it would be. And so long as they are comfortable and those around them are comfortable with it being recorded, I don't see an issue with it. And I think really, like we had discussed previously, my project in terms of AI, especially for human modeling, may be much more important than we can even foresee.
Maybe it is. So what do you think with AI, right, and with what you're doing, how does it play into what you're doing? You're talking about training an AI model based on you jacking off on a screen for no, I'm just kidding, but whatever. No, but you're talking about training an AI based on this. Do you really think that there's any probable, use for that for an AI model?
Well, certainly in understanding human motion, human behavior, human biology, knowing how like different temperatures of a human body, how people think, how people interact with others. I think that has definitely a lot of data points that to be certainly discovered. And the things that I'm talking about, the conversations that we're having are important for the future of humanity. And we're archiving them in our own way. You're archiving them on a podcast. I'm archiving them within my life logging project. And people, perhaps decades from now or centuries from now, will go back and say, this is what life was like during 2026. These are the predictions that these individuals made.
True.
Some were accurate, some were inaccurate. We do that now with people's diaries and even going back to older, medieval manuscripts and ancient scrolls, and we critique them. And so we're just using video as the more modern medium for doing this. And you had asked, how do I use AI in my daily activities? Well, I use it for blogging. I've created quite an immense amount of blogs just on futurism, the kind of topics that I think aren't being discussed in the mainstream that I'll just review a few of right now. Things like anti-gravity, antimatter, faster than light travel, faster than light communication, space tourism, space elevators, terraforming of other planets, interstellar travel, things like artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, Santa Claus machines, which are like replicators that are essentially like 3D printers that are connected to all of the periodic table to be able to make anything that you want. Things like de-extinction. People don't know this, Drew, but the first successful de-extinction took place in the year 2003 with the Pyrenean ibex, which was a goat located in northern Spain, southern France. Fast forward to the year 2021, a company out of Dallas, Texas is founded.
They did the dire wolf.
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And they have on their plans within the next 2 years to reintroduce the woolly mammoth, followed by the Tasmanian tiger and the dodo bird.
Well, from what I understand, they're not exactly. It's like a wolf that might have some of the characteristics, but not all.
That's exactly right. It's a hybrid version of
Right.
it, but it's still a scientific accomplishment.
Oh, absolutely.
And perhaps with AI in the future, we'll be able to manipulate or engineer the DNA in a way to make more accurate versions. But even just these discussions that and these scientific accomplishments to be able to archive on a stream basically a human timeline, I feel are important. And then we're moving into an age of life extension technology. And I want to give people, God willing, if I ever go viral.
They
and I
did say
really
life
think I will,
expectancy just moved up for the first time in like a few years in the United States. It's like from 70 something to like 73, I think now.
which is excellent. And I'd like to see it continue to do so with oxygen therapy, human growth hormone, stem cells, cryonics, cryogenics.
You know what? Realistically,
cold therapy.
I think you have so many people that probably die really young that probably really skew that stat. I would guess there's probably more people living into their 80s now, and those are the ones that are really driving up those numbers. Because like when you have so many people in the stat pool, it's tough to move those numbers even a percentage.
That's true. If you can if you can live more than your first year, the statistics, especially in the Western world, or at least a developed country, increase in your favor very much so to even surpass what the
But
average
even what
life
you were saying about
expectancy.
prediction models, right? Like with my AI prediction model, even the AI is telling me, they're like, listen, you got to have reasonable expectations because even the best prediction models in the world that they have out there are only like 52 to 60% best, percentage wise good. So it's interesting, like right now I track all the stats on that. And I mean, you're asking AI to produce something that will predict the future. So it's a very fucking crazy thought. But, I think about that. It is so hard to predict that. And if you can find something that's able to predict the future that well, then you'll probably make a ton of money, right?
That's absolutely right. And being first to market with that is incredibly important as well. But these types of technologies are going to perhaps allow people to have an average life expectancy changing from the 70s to into the 80s, perhaps into 100, 120 or older. And we're really moving away from your traditional Homo sapien like environment and really into transhumanism. And for anyone out there who's listening, I don't want to force anything on anyone. If you don't want oxygen therapy or you don't want some of these advanced life extension technologies, I don't want you to have them if you don't want them.
Right.
But for those of us who are interested in them, then I feel that it's your opportunity and you're in a really special time of the world where you might be able to utilize them to be able to live to 100, 120 or older.
Right.
And once that happens and we're able to reverse age and perhaps even delay death indefinitely, we're a different kind of creature. We're no
Right.
longer a mortal creature. And that moves into the transhumanism debate. And for those of us who may be more neutral toward it and just want to learn more about it, we learn about technologies like mind uploading technology where
Do you
with
know
someone-
Ashton Forbes? You know the name?
it sounds familiar, but please enlighten me.
So I had him on the show, and he was one of the guys. He's a physicist, but he found footage of the missing Malaysian flight MH370, and people were coming out trying to debunk everything he's saying. He came on and he defended it, right? But his point was that the U.S. government has technology that they will not let go public. They have things that can create energy from 0 point that would absolutely destroy the oil market and that would collapse all the markets. So they keep it, they hide it from the public. So that was his thing. But he was an interesting guest. But he was talking about a lot of the physics stuff that you're talking about. And a lot of people are like, that's science fiction, where he said it wasn't.
I'm in agreement with him. We're moving from science fiction into science fact. And the idea of being able to upload one's mind may today seem like science fiction, but is becoming science fact. We're already having small mammals like rodents being able to perhaps transfer memories from one species, one being to another, basically allowing one of the mice or rodents to be able to do a maze, whether it's a rat or whatever it would be, and then using types of brain-computer interfaces and perhaps even there's a cap that can be worn, transfer the memory into another being, and then the second being is able to do the maze without a hitch in one attempt. This is a reproducible example of a mind transfer or a memory transfer. And the idea of a mind uploading type of technology is no longer science fiction. If you really think about it, we're able to perhaps extend our lives and perhaps reverse age, or at least delay aging, and perhaps one day be able to reverse it. The idea of mind uploading isn't that far off. The idea, with someone's consent, scanning their brain into a computer like a CAT scan or an MRI, knowing where every atom is in their central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, for later download as an android, an avatar, a cyborg, a cybernetic being, a clone of themselves, a robot, an ethereal being, whatever they want to be. But essentially, what I'm saying to you, Drew, and your audience, is that we are on the precipice of something quite great, perhaps a type of immortality, or at least digital immortality, which really is something that would only have been thought of as science fiction generations ago, but it's becoming real.
Right.
And then things really start to get interesting, because what do you do from a legal standpoint when you live 1,000 years? Do you have lifetime guarantees anymore? Or do you have a marriage contract till death do us part? What happens if you don't die? How does that change the relationships that people have? There are all kinds of
You
questions.
stay with somebody until you can't stand them anymore, right?
Well, people do that now, right? Yes. And I'm in agreement with you, but no longer may people say to themselves, hey, I want to get married for a long period of time. Maybe you'll have some type of marriage contract that gets renewed. And if you love the person, continue to love them. Just get your contract renewed. But if you want to perhaps fall in love with someone else, or just be single, or whatever it may be, you may have the opportunity to just not renew your marriage contract with the person, and it would be an amicable separation without the need for your traditional divorce. These are just some of the questions that are arising within the transhumanist movement, and frankly, it gets into, do people have the right to do this? And we're transitioning between the haves and the have-nots in a way that we've never been able to perhaps contemplate in a previous generation, where you will have people who have the finances and the ability and the means to be able to live perhaps millions of years. And then there are just those that simply won't have those same means, and they'll have a traditional, perhaps mortal life. And at least for my project, I'm about your average individual. And I want to give those people who perhaps wouldn't have had the opportunity to do this in the past, hopefully be able to monetize my streams and my projects so that I can give this gift to as many people as possible. I can't guarantee it, but it is certainly a positive thinking. And especially with how we're moving into the future, I might not be the only person who wants to give other people the gift of life.
Amen. Amen, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's interesting as hell. I appreciate you coming on, and thanks for putting up with my shit. And God bless you, my friend.
Excellent. Do you mind if I tell your audience how they can find me?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Excellent. First and foremost, type Rabbi Rothschild into YouTube and filter by live. You will see dozens of different streams from different angles, unlike you've ever seen with any person before. Moreover, you can always connect with me in my Discord, discord.me/rabbi. I know there are people who are hearing my voice out there who just need to speak with someone. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to, but I want you to know there's someone out there who cares about you, who wants the best for you. And if you ever need anybody, I'm here to support you. All of my social media can be found at linktree.com/Rabbi Rothschild. You can read my writings at rabbirothschild.medium.com, including topics such as Shabbos, such as AI, such as transhumanism, and perhaps some other things that are of interest to people out there. And so with that, Drew, thank you for the opportunity.
I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you coming on. Very interesting stuff. We'll have to have you on again sometime.
God willing. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Hey, God bless you, my friend. Take care.
You as well.
All right. So that was Rabbi Rothschild. He was talking about living forever. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I was in a casino one time, and this girl comes up to me. She goes, that's going to kill you. And I was like, now with my shitty luck, I'll probably live forever. But I digress. We have got a few crazy things to go over today. We have the death of Lindsey Graham, which is very sad. He was a great man had some videos, but we don't have the time today to go over those. Maybe in another Wednesday or other show. But there are some things to get to. This one here is the main Senate candidates. They're trying to find somebody to replace Graham Plattner, and this was the best that they could come up with. This shit is crazy in its own right. If we can get this thing to
and then
load.
with the trans community, like, we're being dehumanized. They say that we want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to use the bathroom. And if they want me to use the men's room, I will, but I don't want to be assaulted. And then with the trans...
This is Ashley Webb. He is going for one of the spots for this whole thing. And says he just wants to be able to use the bathroom. Just wants to be able to use the bathroom. And here's another video of this one here. This is crazy. I mean, it really is crazy. You can't make this up.
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books. And then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people, and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like,
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
These people are wildly crazy. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what even is that? I'm a songwriter. What are your qualifications? Well, I'm a songwriter. But I digress. The President of the United States finally released everything about the 2020 election, declassified everything. Here's the President of the United States talking about that. And he releases this, never seen before.
The fourth set of documents reveals that
things, right? And
even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes.
And so just naturally, just like that, all the Democrats start running out, defending their actions in 2020, saying that his own people said at the time that it was the most secure election in the history, but we knew that was a lie. Everybody knew that was a lie. But you have ABC, NBC that legitimately didn't cover the story. But this right here, they hid this from Congress. There were 200 million people, 200 million Americans, data files that were exposed and taken by the CCP.
Meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that The United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it, made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026, this is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past.
And that's why it's so important right now to pass the Save America Act. And you have these Democrats that are still just trying to hide everything. They're just trying to hide everything. Think about that. 200 million Americans had their data stolen. And you have like ABC, NBC, and all of that. Now, in the meantime, you have Democrat socialists with Merriman Mamdani of New York. And these guys, these Democrats, are saying that eviction is violence. Listen to this shit. It's crazy.
Our city is turning the corner on tenant power. When we organize, we win results. The Mamdani administration is emboldening us so that we no longer tolerate the violence of evictions as a matter of business as usual. My landlord owns dozens of buildings, but he is not a steward of the public trust. In fact,
it's a business. Pay your fucking bills, lady. It is not violent to have to be booted like that. It's insane that these Democrats think that's violence. But then you also have Democrat Rep. Summer Lee saying that black doctors are better for black people because white doctors don't care. Maybe in your world,
having
what's wrong with
all white male doctors is just as bad for the medical profession as having all white male congressmen is to our government. Let me just say, I have a black doctor and I sought my black doctor out. In fact, black doctors are in high demand because black patients know that culturally competent care can be the difference between care and cure or life and death. That's just what it is. Republicans cry DEI and say it's unfair. They say we should only rely on so-called objective standards for medical competence. But objective according to who? You cannot standardize test your way into empathy or taking people's pain seriously or cultural competency. MCAT scores don't translate to better care for black people automatically. Having all white male...
It's amazing. So she basically just says that, you know, hey, if I had a white doctor, they wouldn't care about me. You believe this? This is exactly what's wrong with the Democrat Party. You know, but this is exactly it too. So you have a kid that tries to rob an old lady. The lady shoots and kills the kid. And what happens? The kid's parents sues the old lady for his death. You cannot make this shit up.
A 65-year-old woman, SHOT, and killed 2 teenagers after they robbed and violently attacked her. Now, the families of these 2 teenagers have filed charges against her and demanded a $1 million compensation. On December 6th, 36-year-old Ellie was washing a car at a car wash in northern Florida when 17-year-old Jaswin Bell and 16-year-old Quinns Mercer suddenly broke into the garage. According to the video, after Bell and Mercer attempted to steal the car keys but were refused by Ellie, they suddenly attacked her, repeatedly punching and kicking her face. During this time, Bell jumped onto another car nearby, started the engine, and attempted to flee by carjacking. Meanwhile, Mercer continued to pin Eli to the ground and beat her relentlessly. Fearing for her life, Eli pulled a gun from the car and fired back. Mercer was struck first and fell unconscious, followed by Bell losing consciousness. When paramedics arrived, both were pronounced deceased on the spot. Fortunately, Ellie suffered a mild concussion and facial fractures, but has now been out of danger after receiving treatment in the hospital. The assailant's family later filed murder charges against Ellie.
These people are disgraceful, and, they don't deserve the rights that the West grants them. But I digress. We have Democrat from Michigan, Haley Stevens, running against the socialist Democrat. She sounds like Mickey Mouse, but this could be an SNL skit. That's how ridiculous this is. This is Haley Stevens running for Michigan. She's a weirdo.
I am going to be telling the stories.
Listen to this.
On our behalf. And you better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of stick it to them. Because that's the Michigan way.
How weird is that? Like, that's who the Democrats are putting forth in Michigan here. Absolutely weirdos. Absolute weirdos. In the meantime, you got the Republicans here that are sticking up for the American people. But this one here is the one important one that I'm going to end on today. This is Amy Coney Barrett. This is a Trump appointee. We've always known that she's been scared of the mob, right? She said this. She said that she's scared of the mob. Well, she brought up this, and this, to me, says exactly why she should be removed from the Supreme Court, because she's clearly lets her fear influence her actions.
About how the threats have affected me and my family personally. They have required me to, my children, to think about and see things that children should not have to see or think about. One example is when threats to my life were particularly intense a few years ago, around the time of the Dobbs leak. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, turned around, and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it. And I didn't know how to respond because maybe I lack imagination, but I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one.
And that's why she's not qualified to be on the Supreme Court. If that's what bothers you, then you should not be on the Supreme Court. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's all the time that we got for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something, had some fun with us along the way. We'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for watching the Drew Grimaldi podcast. Keep the faith. God bless all of you. God bless America. And get out there and talk shit to a liberal today.